So, last night I was having an in-depth discussion because of some previous thoughts that I had with a friend, and the issue was the topic of boomers or baby boomers. And here's my point of view on the topic. So, the people who generally frown on the baby boomers or say things like, oh, that's such a boomer thing to say. Part of me believes that that comes from a place of jealousy that the baby boomers lived at a time in which things were better and now things are worse, so therefore it must be their fault. And I completely reject that belief altogether. The simple fact of the matter is that the environment in which anybody lives is the result of the decisions of people before. So if those decisions are wise, a good environment is created for, say, their offspring or the people that follow after them. Whereas if the decisions are unwise, reckless, then obviously the people that came after those decisions were made are going to suffer. So as an example, we might say that the world that we now live in seems manifestly broken, it's unfair, full of division, full of poverty, full of greed. Okay, but we didn't make those decisions. The people that are in power, and not even necessarily now, but that were in power prior to now, made decisions that caused what we're now experiencing. So it's like more of a like an echo or ripple effect. So yes, while it seems obvious that some of our current leaders are not making the wisest of decisions right now, that means in years' time or a few years down the road, then the full magnification of those decisions will be felt, right? So again, coming back to baby boomers, it seems like in some instances the jealousy is like the words that are being used, for example, is like from the boomers' perspective, they're saying, hey, we got ours, to heck with all the rest of you. And I don't think that that's their attitude. Now, in all fairness, the times they lived in growing up, especially like the 50s and the 60s, probably even the 70s for that matter, times were perhaps a lot better. We were perhaps friendlier, more civil and cohesive as a society. Money went further. But that's not the boomers' fault. To blame the boomers is to misplace responsibility for the current situation that we find ourselves in. I mean, if, like, for example, with regards to house prices or home prices, say in the 50s, or even the 40s for that matter, but the 40s, 50s, 60s, house prices were good. But the boomers didn't create those house prices. The economic conditions that existed at the time of the boomers' birth were to blame, or to accept responsibility in this case, because those were good prices. So wise decisions lead to good circumstances down the road, and bad decisions lead to bad circumstances down the road. And I can't put the blame on boomers. It's asinine, it's ridiculous. And we concluded our conversation, my friend and I, last night with, okay, so you can point the finger of blame fairly at politicians, perhaps those who are really, really greedy in this world. Some might say the big companies and corporate CEOs. Okay, great. But that still doesn't solve the problem. You know who's really to blame? You, right there in the looking at me, and me. We're to blame. You know why we're to blame? Because we refuse to hold these people accountable. That's why we are to blame. You don't expect say a tiger to so-called change his stripes. A tiger eats meat. Okay? But if we don't want the tiger to eat our family, because after all, our family is meat, we are responsible for corralling that tiger to make sure that our family stays safe. Right? Does that make sense? So, if a politician is a ravenous creature who seeks only to destroy, why are we blaming the politician? We're the ones that put him there. This is just common sense, right? So ultimately, the only people to blame for bad decisions taking root the way they have is moi and you. That's it. Can you imagine the world that we would live in if the decisions that would be made by elected officials, if they feared for their life every time they set foot in public? Suddenly something tells me that those decisions would be much, much wiser. I'm guessing. I mean, doesn't that seem like the common sense thing to say? So I don't know why, like, this topic. So I personally am a Gen X, right? I was born in 71. But yet this topic, because it deflects responsibility and assigns blame where it doesn't belong. Okay, so boomers benefited from cheap housing. Well, let me tell you something. If boomers hadn't even been born, the cheap housing still would have existed. So it's not the boomers' fault. The environment, the decisions that were made by their parents, their elected officials, those people were perhaps much wiser than the current crop of elected officials that we have. But no, stop blaming the boomers because they had nothing to do with it. Okay, great, they were the benefactors. So why don't we emulate what their parents were doing to create the environment so that our kids have the environment that the boomers had? But something tells me we don't have what it takes, the courage, the faith to right the ship. And you know what? That's okay, but we need to stop complaining about it, right? Because if we're not willing to step up, if we're not willing to fix the problems, if it's just like, I voted, I did my job, no, nothing's going to get fixed. These people aren't going to help you. The elected officials, they don't care about you. They only care about themselves, keeping their jobs and justifying their position in life. Perhaps once they get voted out of office, they'll go to work for the companies they once regulated. No. Stop blaming the boomers. The boomers had nothing to do with it. They are blameless. And if you think the boomers are so rich, well, guess what? When they die, you're going to inherit their wealth. So who cares? Right? It's just like, I don't know. This subject, why this one gets me more worked up than some of the other topics that I've discussed. Because I guess I really don't like misassigned blame. They don't deserve the blame. They're victims as much as we are. Now, do I have all the answers? Absolutely not. Not even a little bit. In fact, I'm not even ashamed to admit I don't really consider myself that intelligent. I do consider myself somewhat wise. I am not the smartest cookie in the drawer or the sharpest knife in the drawer or whatever it is. But I know what accepts or should accept responsibility and wasn't what does not deserve the blame. And what doesn't deserve the blame is the people who were born into a good system. It's not their fault. So anyway, this topic, it all gets me worked up and hyped up and everything else. But anyway, I'd be really, really interested to hear what you have to say on the topic. So please do not hesitate to comment. Please like this video. Please share this video. Please consider subscribing. I would be very, very grateful. I'm getting so close to having 100 subscribers. It was like at 92, and then it went down to 91, and then it shot up to 93. I would love to get to that 100. Anyway, today is Christmas Eve. It is Wednesday. I think it's probably getting closer to 10:30 than not. I'm going to post this video, even though I already posted a long video today. I posted another one at 8 o'clock, but I'm down here at the park again. As you can see, there is much less blue sky than the video that I did. Yeah, anyway, I hope all of you have an awesome Christmas. I'll post another video later. But yes, please give me your opinion on the topic of boomers, because they don't deserve the grief. They really don't. And when you assign it to them, that's just a punk move. It really is. It's just like such a punk and lame move. It's like, it just makes you sound retarded, really. But anyway, let me know what you have to think, and I will see you in the next video, okay? Bye-bye.